When I think of a God-given vision, I think it always begins with the person knowing who God is. My name is Musa Mdunge. In my life, I have been very lucky to have had two parents who really raised me up in the Lord, to know and to understand who God is for myself. And a God-given vision oversees your own personal ambitions. It really is about serving God, but also serving God's people. And I think that has always been the anchor for my life. Ever since I was young, I've always had the feeling that, what am I here to do? It's one thing to accumulate money and wealth, but another to leave a lasting impact in the lives of so many people. But secondly, being raised as the only child, they always reminded me of the fact that education will be your brother, your sister, your friend. And so when I went to primary school, we had a bit of a challenge in the beginning. The teacher who taught us in grade 1 seemed to veer off the syllabus, and as a result failed most of the class, including myself. Out of all the parents who went to school to go and inquire and fight for why a whole class could be failed in grade 1, my mother was the only one who did that. And as a result, I was passed. And that already showed me that a God-given vision makes you to fight for a fight greater than yourself. And I saw this in the kind of stealth and fight and resolve that my mother had, being the only parent out of 30 other parents to go to the school and inquire. And from then I knew that clearly I was here for something. Throughout school, I always tried my best. And my parents were very supportive of that. And I think it's important that children get an experience of having a goal, a vision. No matter how mundane people may think it is, it's important for people to start to think and inculcate that in children. And that really was my parents. So they've always supported whatever I felt like I was here to do. And I received Christ, because of that, really at an early age. At the age of 11, I already received Christ as Lord and Savior. I was serving in the church, and that has always anchored me. I've always believed that my power, my grace is in my oratory skills. And I've always tried to use that to speak life to so many people. But life doesn't move in a linear way. And through the journey, one has engaged in different challenges. But as I said, that vision must be greater than yourself. It must outlive how you're feeling in the morning, whether you're sick, whether you feel good, whether you woke up on the wrong or the right side of bed. And I've always endeavored to do that. Fast forward to when I get into high school. In fact, just before I get into high school, I had applied for one of the best public schools in Gauteng at the time. And I remember going to my primary school teacher to go get the application forms. And she looked at me, looked at the application form, and she said bluntly, "You will never get into a school like this one." That can be very discouraging. But for me, it just fueled a fire within. By the end of August, I was accepted into that school, and the next year, I was on my way to the second top school in the province. In life, you're always going to engage people who don't believe in you, people who don't trust in you, who don't believe in you. But you see, a God-given vision, when it's anchored around the source, who is God, will always be the primary motivation that you keep. It will always sustain you when others are not there to motivate you. It will always keep you going when others want to pull you down. When I got to this number 2 best school in the province, I was amazed when I looked at the multiple achievers list. There was no black child on it. No black child was able to achieve at least 4 distinctions and above. And so I looked at my mom and I said, "Mama, I'm going to be that child. I'm going to do it." So already I had set a goal, a vision for when I would get to matric. So vision has an element of faith. In fact, faith is central to vision, because you've got to be able to see in the future without having the hindsight of the journey you're going to go through. So I didn't have the hindsight of the journey. In fact, the paradox of that statement of me telling my mother that I would be that child is that in the first and the second term, I actually only got 42% average. So I was opposite the vision I had set up. But you see, Like Joseph, I had to go through the pit, but the palace is born because of the foundation laid by the pit. And for me, that is where I found myself. And at the end of grade 9, I was stably in the 60 percentiles. I recognized that it wasn't enough to simply be on that 60 percentile. And I recognized that part of the effectiveness of my ministry would have been to achieve excellently in all areas of my life. It's what I call the silent evangelism. How do people receive your ministry when you don't talk, when they just judge you by your actions? And so that became instilled and really earmarked in my heart that was so important. And so in matric, being deputy head boy, being a prefect, being in the musical, directing drama, being the captain of the debating team, being in hockey and in rugby as well, I made sure to exude excellence in every area, not so much for myself, but for those who are looking at me. They will not come to you and tell you about it, but they're there. They see you, they recognize you, and they are learning from you. And so by the end of matric, I moved from that 42 percentile in grade 8, and I achieved a 76%, but guess what? I was also part of that multiple achievers list. I did the thing I had set out to do. Was it bumpy on the road? Yes, but it was worth it. And so from that point, it was really easy for me to get into university. And when I got into university, I continued to be that A student. But come third year, like Moses looking at the promised land, there was an uncertainty where I would cross over. I'd done so well up until this point. But then I incurred a module that I thought I would achieve at, because I was going by the principle of induction. Because you got 80 the day before, you must get 80 today. And guess what? I'd only gotten 44%. Failure is normal. Success is normal. But what determines the value and the weight of the failure or the success is the attitude in which you receive it and the response that you give it. At the end of that year, I did achieve the goal of a distinction. But then another hurdle came through. My dad got sick. In fact, when we went to the doctors said to us his level of infection was such that he should really have died 3 months prior to that. I had no brother, no sister whom I could rely on to inquire and find out what do we do, what steps do we take. Every decision I had to take for the family. On that day on, I became the head of the family. But this strengthened my resolve, and luckily he's healed, he's good. He's turning 70 this year, and God has been good. And I achieved my honors degree cum laude. No excuses, because the vision is bigger than you. And so then I applied for a scholarship called Mandela Rhodes Scholarship. I just took a gamble. I didn't think I was worthy of it. I'd applied for previous scholarships for masters, and it didn't work out. And then when I heard that about 11,000 Africans applied for this scholarship, I thought there is nothing special about me or my story. I will not get it. But long and behold, God does qualify those who feel they are not qualified for the race. And I got it. But just when I was about to finish that degree, I fell into a coma. The doctors then said that, look, your son has diabetes. But not only does he have diabetes, he's got hypertension. Something in my spirit just didn't receive what they were telling me. Yes, the facts are I had diabetes. The facts are I had hypertension. But what is the truth? The truth is Jesus still heals. By the 3rd week, doctors said, look, dude, we don't see no sugar. There's no need for you to take the medication. And after 4 weeks from being in a coma, I was in London. That is the God that we serve. And so I got my master's in record time, and I went on to then be the head of a media publication at the age of 25. And the people who trusted me, among them was the former minister in the presidency, Iso Pahad. And I just didn't understand. How could this man, who was the right-hand man of President Thabo Mbeki, trust me with his publication? I had no editorial experience, but this is where I learned that at times, vision must take you to an uncomfortable space so that you learn to depend fully on God. It's the difference between Abraham and Abraham. It's that discomfort level that broods in it vulnerability, and vulnerability that broods faith, and faith that creates a bond with God that will take you through life. It hasn't been easy, but no man is an island. And so I thank my parents, I thank my friends, I thank the church for the lessons, for the journey, for the life that they have given me. And I am blessed to be here. So do remember that vision is always greater than you. But vision also means that you will have to take more steps than other people. My success has been anchored by my attitude towards failure. My rising up has been anchored by knowing who I am. And so because I know who I am, I understand and recognize that the best is yet to come.